one last thing I want to get to here, and that's the ball latch and the cocking handle spring and drive spring. We get a lot of customers that actually get those mixed up. They get them mixed around, and that'll cause the marker, to not shoot properly. So we'll go ahead and with our 3/16 we'll remove our cyclone feeder bolt and just kind of loosen up our forearm grip here. Another real common thing that we have a lot of people doing too when they disassemble their marker, they usually take the body halves apart, which is usually the first mistake. I usually never take the body halves apart unless it's absolutely necessary. And what I mean by that is you get a ton of paint on the inside of your receiver, or you get a lot of dirt or debris on the inside of the receiver. And that's really the only reason to ever take that apart. And as you can see, I kind of popped out that tombstone latch. We'll go ahead and put that back in place. But that's really the only reason to ever have to take apart your receiver halves. I usually just field strip it by pulling all the stuff out of the back end, cleaning it off, and throwing it back in place. But we'll kind of talk about our cocking handle spring and our drive spring here. A lot of people, for some odd reason, they get that mixed up. And you can kind of see the difference there. You have the longer spring, which is, believe it or not, your cocking handle spring. And then you have the shorter spring, which is the drive spring. That goes behind the rear bolt. I'll just kind of show you the difference between those. You always want to make sure you get that longer spring behind your cocking handle. And we'll just go ahead, we'll reassemble our marker. Just real quick. We'll go ahead, we'll put our front sight back in. And you have to remove your front sight whenever you're going to reinstall it. I mean, not your front sight, you have to remove your front sight screw whenever you're going to reinstall your front sight. Go ahead and put our barrel adapter and our barrel back in. And we'll tighten up all these receiver screws. Go ahead and tighten up our cyclone feeder bolt, our front grip, and then from there we can go ahead and reinsert our front bolt, linkage arm, valve, and power tube assembly. Another thing too, always make sure you have your front bolt facing the correct direction. A lot of people will flip it around backwards, and that will make it to where you can't cock your gun back. So always make sure that you have this square section facing the front of the power tube. So we'll go ahead, we'll slide all that back into place. And as you can see, it's kind of tight going in, and that might be due to the receiver being a little too tight. So we can go ahead and loosen up our receiver bolts just a little bit, just to allow everything to slide in there a little bit better. Okay. And then once you get to this point, you can just kind of take your Allen wrench, stick it in through that rectangular opening of the power tube, and just pull everything back in towards the barrel. Go ahead and reinstall our tombstone. You don't want to forget that rear sight. Go ahead and put push pin in. And then from there we'll go ahead and put our trigger assembly, our safety back in. I know I kind of took that out of screen there, but what I was trying to do is get the drive spring into the back of the rear bolt plug there. Just kind of show you what that was. Go ahead and put our guide pin back in. Put our end cap back on. Finish getting all our push pins back in. And that is the troubleshooting section of the firing issues with your Tippmann A5 marker.